Thunder! 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 Thundercats! Ho!
Welcome to the new episode, Thundercats Recap. We are doing episode 2 of the original Thundercats series, The Unholy Alliance, which aired originally on January 23rd of 1985.
I wasn't even born then. Or I'd like to believe.
And I was just born for what, 3 months?
Shut up.
4 months?
Shut up. Now you trap, Pee-wee, shut up.
Episode 2, we finally meet Mumm-ra, the villain of Thundercats, in this episode.
The head HBIC.
Really, truly. Like, did you appreciate that they saved Mumm-ra for the second episode? Do you think it would have been too much to have Mumm-ra in the first episode? Although we did mention that this was combined into
See,
a pilot.
I don't think of, like, we're doing this for the listening audience, like breaking it into episodes, but to me, Thundercats, the original, will always be a continuous movie. So basically, for me, it's a continuation. I don't like this form, the way we're doing it, to be honest with you. We're doing it because of the fact that people may want to watch episode by episode, especially if you don't have time in your hand. But I would have preferred to do, like, the whole thing, like the introduction, but for the way we're doing this plot, it's important to do it this way. So
it makes sense because we're so used to seeing it as an hour long, or however it was to combine the first 3 episodes into one movie. So we're used to seeing it just continue from when they crash on Third Earth to the mutants meeting Mumm-ra. So we're used to it as one thing. But yes, this is broken down into episodes. So let's just go right back into it. Now that they're on Third Earth, the Thundercats are searching their wrecked flagship in order to salvage as much equipment and food rations as they can. Despite much of the electronic gears being damaged in the crash, Panthro is optimistic that there's enough Thundrillium for him to construct a Thunder Tank. Instead of helping the others, Lion-O heads off into the nearby forest to explore their new home. For his protection, he takes the Sword of Omens and the Claw Shield with him as well, and Cheetara and Tigra decide to look for an appropriate site to build the cat's lair. So they already have names for it. They know that they're going to build a Thunder Tank, and they know that they're going to build a cat's lair. They already came with the names.
So there is a continuity question I have. I'm going to bring it up a little bit later on. So yes, so Tigra, they're salvaging pieces. Panther says he's going to make a Thunder Tank, and Wily Kit and Wily Cat want to eat, as well as Snarf, who says he wants the food, he wants to eat, and Tiger's like, no, not until we empty the ship and get all the rations out, then we can have something to eat. And Panthro is like going to build a Thunder Tank. So Lion-O basically kind of volunteers because he has to, he wants to step up. And I almost feel like at the moment that it was like because he didn't want to do any of the hard work. And Tigra basically says to Panthro and I think Cheetara that it's important for them to let him go because he missed out on the fundamental basics of growing up. So he needs this time to, and use the big word, reconnoiter the surrounding areas. So
what the hell is a reconnoiter?
Reconnoiter. It's to survey, like to observe. So this is, I remember this word as a kid because I remember thinking it was the coolest thing and I had to look it up because I didn't know what it meant. So basically they're sending him out to survey and to look the lay of the land and kind of see what's going on. And Tigra thinks it's important for him to do that, where Cheetara's like, should we not have him do all this hard work or this stuff? And Tigra's like, no, he needs to learn because he didn't learn. He just grew up in body, not in mind.
I mean, you're right. So doesn't Snarf want to accompany him as well? And I know Lion-O is in this thing. He's trying to prove that he is the Lord of the Thundercats now, but I would be a little on Cheetara's side with this. Yes, he needs to learn, but at the same time, they are in a strange land. Yes, he does have the Sword of Omens, but does he really know how to wield it at this moment? That would be what I would be worrying about. I get Tigra's whole point of he has to catch up.
Well, at the same time, they don't know of Mumm-ra, and they don't know of a lot of other dangers of Third Earth because it's really kind of, Third Earth is really kind of scary. I would not
Third
want to pick up Third Earth. Third Earth is like what our Earth would be after the apocalypse of a bomb, nuclear bomb, I think, going over. It's like, you know, malted seas and, you know, deadly forests and, you know, all this crazy, like, you know...
There's everything, and everything will kill you.
And then you see the mutants flying...
Yes. Yes, they're also on a mission to build. They already know that they're going to.
I know, and that's the continuity issue I have. How did they know? They're talking about like they're looking around and their Fly goes, who also has like a very Yoda like yes, yeah. Thing that he does like when he talks, like he back talks. I don't know how to explain it. It's like almost like a Yoda thing. Like he
Monkey, yes.
No, but like besides the lizard sort of thing, he does like
he does right. He talks like a I could see that like a Yoda.
Him, you, yes, like you know, like Yoda does kind of. So anyway, they're basically he says, yes. Yeah, it's like. He knows, he says, I know the Thundercats, they're going to be building an impenetrable fortress, if he knows them. So they're going to do the same thing. Now, my issue is, let's go, because it's actually funny, the banter between the mutants, how they're like, Monkeyin and Jackalman. Jackalman saying, wow, there's some primitive looking buildings here, like, you know.
Yes, so the mutants, on the surface, they look like characters that would be... Like Sly, let's just say, is the smart one because he's like the lizard one and the leader. But these mutants aren't really dumb. I know in the future they kind of like make
Monkeyin like
a little
like
more.
A monkey, yeah, like he gets a little like more like animal, stupid, quote unquote.
They all say big words. Speaking of big words, Jackalman, Monkeyin,
talking about how the Earth is primitive. It's nothing like their home planet Plundar, and Sly is like, this is not a sightseeing tour. Basically, he says that to them, like. All right, okay, fine. It's primitive. You know, you don't like the ocean over there, but we're not here to sightsee on this little dinky planet because they actually refer to it as a small kind of like crappy planet.
So we're reminded that everyone is more advanced at this point.
Yeah,
the Thundercats are more advanced.
It's Pluto. It once was a planet and now it's not. It's too small. They're size queens.
So yes, the mutants suddenly come across an ancient pyramid. Fierce lightning starts shooting around the pyramid, compelling the mutants to make a hasty landing. A fireball of light appears, and a voice instructs the mutants to follow them into the pyramid. They comply. Even though Jackalman and Monkeyin are a bit hesitant, they reach a giant chamber inside the pyramid, and a figure emerges from the sarcophagus located in the center of the chamber. The mummy identifies himself as Mumm-ra, and proposes that the mutants join forces with him to procure the Eye of Thundera. So this is when we meet Mumbra. I like the word that Monkeyin uses. He says, looks like some kind of sarcophagus coffin. So he knows that word.
So they go in, this ball of light, a doorway opens, a ball of light says enter. They go in, Monkeyin and Jackalman are hesitant, which to me actually makes them even more intelligent than Sly.
Yeah.
Sly says, I'm not afraid of anything because the voice that we find out is Mumm-ra later says, you are welcome here. You know, you will not be harmed or don't fear anything. And he basically says, I don't fear anything anyway. They go in, you know, they also look at the statues, the huge statues that surround the chamber and say, are these an ancient race of mutants? Because they all look like creature things.
We know them. They're probably actually demons, basically.
Yeah.
It's like the ancient spirits of evil totems.
Yeah, exactly. And then Mumm-ra comes out, introduces himself, and says, basically, he knows what they're looking for. They're looking for the Eye of Thundera. And he has known of it for 1,000 years when this planet was known as First Earth.
Which is what David always says, that we're always to believe that Third Earth is really Earth after some kind of apocalyptic.
Yeah.
Do you like how Mumm-ra introduces himself when the coffin opens?
That he talks to himself?
He really does.
This sets up his mental dysfunction issues that I feel plague him because he has not spoken to somebody in probably a couple of 1,000 years, maybe. I don't know.
Besides the ancient spirits?
I don't know if he calls an Uber every so often when he wants to go out and party at the Burble Village or something, or wherever he goes, or like hit up the Amazon warrior women. He's like, you know, pretends he's somebody else. He's like, I'm gonna pretend that I'm single this weekend. And
oh my god.
I don't know but he talks to himself. And I know that the inner dialogue is very similar to the way a lot of characters in cartoons talk to themselves, and we've talked about that before, but his is really creepy because
he talks out loud. He's not even talking to himself.
He's paranoid.
He talks to himself.
He's like, they know that my dark secret.
Yeah, he does that.
he's like, they mustn't know the price I must pay, or they don't know that I just let out a silent fart. It's like he talks.
That's right. So
like paranoid.
The mutants see the mummy form. So Mumm-ra is in a mummy form before he transforms. But the price he does pay is he cannot maintain the Mumm-ra, the ever-living giant form that he turns into for long periods of time. So he doesn't want the mutants to know that.
The mutants also say to him, why do we need you? We'll just call up our boys back on Plundar and we'll level your pyramid and we'll take the sword for ourselves.
But can they not? Because they never end up summoning the other mutants. I'm assuming everything is damaged?
I don't know, but what I will tell you is that obviously Plundar is still around. Thundera has blown up, so there is a chance of these people, they have the capability of flying across space and time, so to speak.
Yes.
So maybe they have communications in the ship. Their ship wasn't damaged because they weren't attacked.
Right, they were doing the attacking.
So Mumm-ra is
true.
like, "Oh no, boo! No way! Screw you! Now you're gonna piss me off." So he sinks their ship into the sand right in front of his pyramid.
Yes, Mumm-ra does say that whenever evil exists, Mumm-ra lives, which is his catchphrase. So basically, even if you defeat Mumm-ra, just know that there's always going to be evil in the world, and Mumm-ra will always survive.
He's like Freddy Krueger. He comes back. He can come back because evil still exists.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so here we go. Overconfident of their own strength, the mutants refuse Mumm-ra's proposal, threatening, like David said, instead to blast the pyramid to powder using the spaceship's controls. Mumm-ra responds to the threat by giving the mutants a taste of his powers. He makes their parked ship, you like this in the description, he makes their parked ship sink. It was parked.
He says to them, "Don't you step up to me like some bitch in high school."
He really did. He's like, "I'm showing you. You want to laugh?
You sunk my battleship." Also available in 1984.
And Mumm-ra then teleports them to Lion-O's location. The mutants appear in the forest and immediately attack Lion-O. The young lord, however, succeeds in summoning his friends using the sword. Before the mutants can grab the sword, Panthro, Wily Kit, Wily Cat show up and send the mutants packing. Inside Mumm-ra's pyramids, the mutants mock him and his abilities, resulting in the irate Mumm-ra morphing into his terrifying, evil, living form.
Ancient spirits of evil, transform this decayed form to Mumm-ra, the ever-living!
Heads out to complete the tasks that the mutants failed miserably to obtain the Sword of Omens.
I love that monkeying goes, "If you think you're so great, do it yourself." Like something like that. It's funny as hell. And I love it. He's like, "You will see my power."
Yes, Mumm-ra is, Skeletor likes to show off, and, you know, he would say something like this, but Mumm-ra believes his hype.
Oh, he's narcissistic, he's insane, he's a sociopath. I mean, and he's so, like...
angry.
Spiteful. He's evil, but he's also, like, spiteful, like, almost like childishly spiteful.
Well, look, he sinks the mutants. Yes, it's a way to have them under his commands, but yeah, he's like, yeah, you want to see some shit? Here's your ship. Goodbye.
You know what? I want to bring up something that we didn't mention earlier in the episode. Lion-O wants to go kill what looks like kind of like a deer sort of a thing.
Yes, very important, yes.
And the Sword of Omens flies out of his hand and basically sticks into the ground and will not come out. And Lion-O gets pissed off, kind of. He's like, "I'm your lord, you know, kind of command you." He's trying to pull on this sword. Jaga, this is the first appearance of Jaga as a spirit.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes, Obi-Wan Kenobi Jaga comes out and says the sword cannot be wielded to harm a life, to take a life, only to protect it.
It's a great feature to add to the Sword of Omens.
Well, it's a learning lesson, too. It's teaching him for respect for life. It definitely goes along with a lot of the themes of 80s cartoons, like, you know, don't harm. It's more you're there to protect and serve and help as opposed to harming. So the sword will not be used. It's kind of like, well, She-Ra's, like, for example, She-Ra's sword is called the Sword of Protection, right? Is that what it is? That's what it's called, because it's there to
He-Man's is the Sword of Power, hers is Sword of Protection. Even though She-Ra's sword is more powerful than He-Man's, because it does everything.
And so does the Sword of Omens, whenever you want. That's, you know, that's funny.
we said in our first episode, Thundercats is very serious. Like, this is not playing out in a campy way. Even when Lion-O's exploring, when the mutants go into the pyramid, it's creepy. This is played seriously. This is not played for camp. This is not played for, you know.
You mean like the new Thundercats cartoon where Mumm-ra is in love with Tigra and they're drawn like little whatever?
I guess like Adventure Time. I mean, I don't know those cartoons, but like Adventure Time, I guess.
I actually love Adventure Time, but
yes, this is not that Mumra. This is this is evil Mumra.
So this is not your mother's Mumm-ra? I don't know.
This is not your mother's Mumra. So this is when, and I have to say, when we first meet Mumra, this scene is very creepy. Lion-O is in the woods by himself. He goes deeper into the forest to search for Tigra and Jatara, who strangely did not respond to the sword's call. He encounters an odd body of water full of tar-like black ooze. Inserting his finger into the goop, Lion-O realizes that it's not only is it hot, but it's extremely sticky. In that instant, Mumm-ra appears and lunges at Lion-O. So this is terrifying, because Mumm-ra is laughing hysterically, like evilly, and he's terrifying. I mean, come on. I mean, he's terrifying.
As a child, he did scare me as a cartoon because he's really scary. He is scary. He's like, and the frothing at the mouth, like his scary spittle, like mucusy mouth and everything. It's gross, but scary at the same time. Yeah, he's like, you know, so.
And he's just like he's silent, and at the same time, he's laughing, and he is
demonic. He's demonic. He is demonic.
In the ensuing battle, the Sword of Omens falls into the lake. Lion-O quickly pulls it out and shouts, summoning a call to the Eye of Thundera, but it's engulfed in the dense, sticky tar and does not react. In his last desperate attempt to protect himself, Lion-O raises his claw shield in front of Mumm-ra when the villain sees his fiendish reflection in the shield's mirror-like surface. He is terrified and flies away. So this is our first appearance of Mumm-ra being terrified of his own reflection.
And if you're like me and you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning with your kids, you will also be terrified of your own reflection in the morning. You don't need a bear claw. The only bear claw I'm eating is a pastry. But it scares me too. It scared me too, Larry. So you missed one point here, though. Basically, when Lion-O tries to call for the Thundercats doesn't work, he goes, "I only wish it could."
It's no use, boy. The Eye of Thundera cannot summon your friends this time. I only wish it could.
Because he wanted to.
Yes, that is really, that's a really great line.
And Lion-O, I'm gonna really put myself out here and say I feel like Lion-O puts up the claw shield almost like childlike because he's scared, which would play into the fact that he's still young, even though he's an adult body, he's young. He like does it because he's frightened, because he doesn't have anything else to, nothing to help him. So
100%.
Which makes him more
analogy, great analogy, because he is a child still, mentally.
And Mumm-ra is scary as hell.
I was going to say, if I was in that position, I would have been dead, because he is terrifying.
But everything is a weapon.
Including
if you didn't have damn right, I would have thrown that tar in that scary thing's face. I would have burnt my hand if I had to. I would have picked up a stone, a stick, and thrown it at him. At least not sit there.
What are you doing, boy?
Yes, and Mumbra likes to call him Boy Cub.
Yeah, I would have beaten him with a stick. I would have picked up whatever was near me.
So we see at this point,
I'm a fighter, not a flighter.
Well, thank God. So attracted by the battle noise, the other Thundercats arrive, and Lion-O tells them about his encounter with the strange being he calls himself Mumbra the Ever-Living.
Wily Kid, look!
Yuck! What is that thing, Lion-O?
He is called Mumm-ra the Ever-Living. It was its own reflection that drove it off. Yet it feared nothing.
Except the evil in its own unspeakable face.
So they see this very bat-looking demonic creature flying away. So that is, again, another fantastic shot in Thundercats to set up that this is a villain who ain't playing.
This is the bad guy, because even, again, Lion-O has an internal dialect saying he's not mortal. He says to himself something to the effect of this creature is not mortal. Oh, here's another power of the Sword of the Omens. Now, even though the Sword of Omens
was covered with that stick.
Was covered with the tar, it like sent out like a distress, like they could sense it. It was like a call. The sword was calling. It was calling for help. It was calling 911 without actually making the call.
That's right. It was the emergency call on the iPhone.
Yes.
So Mumra goes back to the pyramid, and he does not speak. He does not speak. This is a great scene. The mutants are watching. He goes right back into the sarcophagus, and he's saying internally that, next time he'll do it. But I like when Sly's like, he doesn't answer.
He didn't do it.
He must have failed. Mighty Mumbra. But he doesn't even call him Mumm-ra. The actor who does Sly calls him Mumbra, the mighty Mumra. So he doesn't answer. Mumbra is pissed off. He's probably like, oh my god, I was gonna show them and I can't even speak about it. What just happened? I saw my face. We're not even gonna speak about it.
I was supposed to win. I was supposed to win.
Do you think this is to show that Mumra is just so evil that when he sees his reflection, he's horrified of what he actually is? Or what he's become, meaning he's seeing himself as a mummy now that he's dead and shriveled? Or is it because he's so evil, he's seeing himself and he's horrified at the evil that he is?
I'm going to put out another analogy. We're going to go back to... or comparison. We're going to go back to a comparison of Freddy Krueger. So in the Dream Warrior... When Alice is fighting Freddy Krueger, the 1-2 Freddy's coming for you, the kids say, in the reflection by my side, evil will see itself and it shall die. So he's actually seeing his own evil, his own internal evil, or maybe the reflection reminds him that it's a facade, like the power is only there temporarily. Maybe.
Yes.
Like I look at it that way. Like when he sees himself, he's seeing who he really is, which is that decrepit, crusty mummy, not really Mumm-ra, this demigod sort of a thing. And that's what kind of shocks him back. But he's afraid of it. He actually shuns away, like he's scared of his reflection. It's reminding him, boo, that he ain't 20 anymore. He's in his late 60s.
He is ever living.
He ain't living that good, though. He might be ever living.
So the trivia does say that this is the first episode in which Mumra's fear of his reflection is depicted. This weakness would be utilized again in numerous future episodes. This is also the first episode in which Mumm-ra transforms into his ever-living form. According to Tigra, Lion-O is inside the suspension capsule for a span of 10 galacto years. It is never mentioned how many Third Earth years that's equivalent to. So question, how did the food supply stay fresh, their rations, if they went into...
It's like canned goods.
Jaga shriveled, but those canned goods didn't.
Well, they were already petrified. I think they're like military rations. They can last for 20 years
true,
or whatever.
Later on, they'll be making YouTube clip opening 1980s military rations.
Do you remember the store Natural Wonders?
Yes, didn't you? No, you didn't.
I did. I worked there my many times that I was working 2 jobs, all the time.
Talk about ancient stores.
Yes, talk about Enya. Anyway, Enya and Mumm-ra. What a pair. So they used to sell the astronaut ice cream sandwiches, which was the dehydrated. So just to throw back to a simpler time, a Mumm-ra time. So that lasted for years too. That rations do last a long time. But yes, they referenced that the rations were not destroyed in the ship. So they actually have food, which is good. But
they're like crackerish looking things too.
I don't know. Maybe it's like a nutritional pill. I wish I had those. I could just take a pill and feel full, like the Jetsons. They take a pill and it tastes like something, and they just swallow. They don't have to eat.
That's right.
And they stay thin. One other thing, I'm sorry, I keep jumping because I really want to set this up. The Eye of the Undera also shows its weakness. The Sword of Omens, if you cover the eye with a tissue, a blanket, your hand,
You're right.
You know, you smear something on the lens, Vaseline, anything, the sword doesn't activate. So you can totally take the Eye of Thundera and just cover it, wrap it up in some Mumm-ra rags.
You know, honestly, it's true. Like, a show that we love, the original Charmed from 1998, the Book of Shadows in that show was protected from evil by evil's touch. In this, if you could cover up the Eye of Thundera. Yes, so there is also no explanation ever given for Chitara and Tigra's failure to respond to Lionel's call, despite them being at a vantage point high in the cliffs.
Maybe they would get your freak on, get your freak on, get your freak on.
You know, I mean, I guess that could be given as an explanation.
I mean, maybe they've heard the cries of the sword, but they were in the throes of passion.
They were doing their own cries.
And they were in a ship for how many millennia and didn't get nothing?
But to me, isn't it in future episodes, we'll see that there's really no way to avoid it, right? Like, the Thundercats when that Thundercats insignia goes off the sword, they're all taken. Their eyes all flash. Like,
they get like, that crystal meth eye jolt.
I was gonna say, when smoke gets in your eye, like the song.
Oh, how sweet. I love that song.
And then the last note we have is, in the feature-length movie, one of the scenes from this episode is missing. It is the scene in which it shows the mutants' first thoughts of Third Earth as they compare it to their own home. I guess that was considered too boring.
Okay, so they probably needed to add that in to make the episodes longer, to make them into a certain amount of episodes.
You know what? Fantastic episode for a second episode. I feel like this sets up, we did joke earlier that they know that they're going to build a thunder tank with names already in a cat's lair, but it sets up the cat's lair.
So the Thundercats know they're stuck there, so they have to make it, they have to shelter themselves, they have to protect themselves. Until the ship gets taken over and sunk into the ground by Mumbra, the mutants really could have just set up a base someplace. They didn't have to be like, well, we're going to set up a big castle, and I'm going to take over 3 acres and start a farm, or whatever else they were thinking they were going to try to do, because they had a ship to leave if they needed to get reinforcements. So the difference is the Thundercats knew they were stuck there. The mutants, up until the ship was, you know, sunk into the sand by Mumbra, they could have left, and I would have.
Yeah, so if they would have left just a little earlier, yeah, they would have had free reign to leave. But this, again, sets up the mutants now are stuck. The mutants, Mumra's ever-living form, and the fact that he does have a weakness and he cannot maintain his form for too much of a time.
I know the feeling. I can't maintain this form for long either.
So that was episode 2 of the Thundercat. You can reach David at Universal Appeal 2020, all one word, on Instagram, and the Radical Retro Podcast, all one word, also on Instagram. We will be back with another episode of Thundercats, the last Friday of every month.
Thunder! Thunder! Thunder!